Hello, my name's Gabriella, welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming at you with a requested video, which is really exciting. So a couple months ago I did a review of this book, Les Miserables. As you can see, it's quite a hefty thing. And I also compared it to the musical. The one thing I didn't do was compare it to the new TV show that was airing. I think it finished airing maybe a week or two before I posted the video. It was quite close. I remember reading the book or being near the end of the book while the TV show was airing. But there were a couple of requests that if I did watch the TV show, that people would like to see me review that too, or react to it. So that's what I'm gonna do today. And if you want to request a video as well, leave a comment below and then subscribe so that you know when the video comes out. So now that I've finally seen the TV show, I'm doing a review/reaction thing to it. Basically, when I was watching it, I was also on my laptop taking notes, or not really notes, but sort of writing down whatever my brain was thinking. So it's sort of a reaction, and obviously I'll throw it, there's some overall thoughts in there as well, but yeah, it's not quite a live reaction, it's sort of a belated reaction. I'm just going to go through each episode and read you some of the choice thoughts because my brain had many. And just quickly to preface this, I overall thought the TV show was very good. I enjoyed watching it, and I think if there was anyone who didn't know the musical or the book very well, then they would also enjoy it. If it was their cup of tea, obviously. I mean, it's not going to be everyone's favourite thing, but I thought it was very enjoyable. I think they did some good things with it. There was some really nice moments. I think with the thought of the novel so present in my head, a lot of my thoughts are quite nitpicky throughout. So I think this is more of a comparison review than just a straightforward review. This is going to be the nitpicky bit, really. Starting with episode 1, obviously. So going through the thoughts as I had them, I initially thought that it started off quite choppy. It was changing perspective quite a lot, and I thought that was quite confusing. I mean, I knew what was going on, but it didn't help me get into it as much. It would have been nice to have followed one person for a while, as opposed to like basically a minute or two with each person. And then straight away my second thought is that they're adding bits already. I mean, have you seen this? There's enough in here. I mean, they cut bits to start with. You don't need to replace anything that you cut. There's enough here. I think there might have been one or two bits which they added which were I think they all worked. It just, was it necessary? And then one of my favourite bits, the first thing I have in all caps is, why are Valjean and Javert having a heart-to-heart 2 minutes in? This was a thing that I kept noticing, was that Javert was doing a lot of talking. He doesn't speak a lot in the book or in the musical. I mean, he has a couple of bits of song in the musical, which do show his inner feelings and things, but that's because in a musical, often when you're singing your inner thoughts and feelings, which is why it works, because people understand the difference, whereas in this, his thoughts are his thoughts and he doesn't say a lot. And in the TV show, it was almost like it was a musical again, with it constantly, he was talking all the time, which if you didn't know the show, it's fine, but if you do know the character, it just felt a bit off. And also, I just have to say, the cinematography was gorgeous. My next all caps bit is the most gorgeous shot of Lily Collins. I want to live in it forever. It was very beautiful. Some scenes, some shots were so well done. And then straight after that, we have another all caps, more extra stuff. Why do they need this much background things? With more extra stuff, they're really force-feeding the backstory here. There's enough story without needing backstory as well. Like, oh, just followed by a small little Filch's Bay though. Because obviously David Bradley was playing Marius's grandfather, and I thought he did a brilliant job. That was one of the characters I think they had spot on. I mean, lots of the characters were very good and close to how they were in the novel, but I thought, yeah, David Bradley, Monsieur Gillenormand, was excellent. And then they changed the timeline a little bit. Not as in the timeline of the order things happened in, but as in the time frames, if that makes sense. So I think this could also be me forgetting things already from the book because it was so long and I read it so long ago, but it was things like here in the first episode I've already written they've got the timeline wrong because Valjean should have been released way earlier. He was mayor for a lot longer in the books than he was in the TV show. In the TV show it was only a couple years, like it was a very short amount of time, whereas in the books it's a lot longer. I think maybe like 20 years. I might just be pulling numbers out of my ass right now, but that's what I remember. I remember it being a lot longer in the book. And then I also had a little note on so much of this seems unnecessary, and if they're gonna go so far into imaginary backstory, as in when I say they were adding backstory earlier, they were adding backstory that Victor Hugo hadn't specifically written in. And so I was saying, if they're gonna add all of that imaginary backstory, where the hell is the first 60 pages of the novel, which is so much backstory on the bishop? He just appeared. They could have done so much more with the bishop. And also, it was, I don't know if this is just me imagining things, but you know in towns where they have the metal railings along the sides of the streets, like on the edge of the pavement, and they're sort of like bollards with like metal poles sort of connecting them. I just didn't envision them being around in the time that this was all going on. I mean, they might very well have been. I honestly could not tell you. I have no idea. I have not researched this at all. It could be that they were around then, but I see them around so much, especially in rural villages kind of, that when there was a shot with them in of Valjean walking up a hill, it just looked like modern day to me. Like it completely threw me out of the moment, the time, everything that was happening, because I was just like, he could have walked up that hill last Tuesday. And they might very well have been there back in that day, but I don't know. So then for the end of it, despite all of the added random backstory that you put in for Valjean, at the beginning I still didn't feel like he was a hardened criminal. He still seemed to have, like, you know, compassion and soul and all that stuff, and you didn't really believe he was going to rob the bishop until it actually happened and you saw it. Whereas I feel like in the books you knew that was going to happen. Like, you could tell it was going to happen because that's what his character was, whereas in the show it didn't seem to build that up enough, and I almost felt like his character arc didn't really work very well. It seemed like when he first got out of prison, he was sort of like the good prisoner, he was the good one. You sort of sympathised with him, when really we shouldn't have been at all. He was the hardened criminal, he was stealing and was going to keep stealing. I found in the TV show that instead of, you know, him finding God and gaining his compassion and everything, he just got angrier and darker through a lot of it, and he was more stern, and it just felt like he started out with quite a lot of compassion and very much lost it, and you didn't really see it again till right at the end, and it just, his character, like, personality arc seemed very out of touch with the events that were going on in the story. But anyway, Bishop, Derek Jacobi, loved that. Did not enjoy another heart-to-heart. There was so much talking in this first episode, and I think it was all sort of like exposition and things, but they really didn't need it. Like, show us by doing, not saying, please. A constant thing for me throughout all of the episodes was the constant mash of English accents and French accents, and also the constant mash of both languages. It didn't make any sense. Like, sometimes people would be randomly speaking in French, sometimes they would randomly be speaking with French accents. Most of the people were speaking English, and it just made no sense at all. Like, I could not figure out a rhyme or reason for why French or French accents were happening when they were, or why, and it was constantly throwing me. Petit Gervais was adorable. I've just written some of the cinematography is whack. I don't know what that means. It was around when Petit Gervais was there. I have some vague memory of just sitting there going, what is happening with this cinematography? Yeah, and then my last thought for the first episode is, well, you didn't try run after him very hard, did he? I've been talking for nearly 20 minutes on episode 1. Joys. This is gonna be fun to edit. Anyways, I'm gonna try be a bit quicker because we've got 5 more episodes to go through. Anyway, episode 2. Continuing on with inconsistencies. Valjean was not in Montreuil for long enough. Gavroche wasn't young enough. Thénardier and Madame Thénardier dynamic, like as the character dynamic, was very, very different to how it is in the books. I did find that with that portrayal, however, there was a lot more sympathy for Madame Thénardier, which I think there is in the books. In the show, in the musical, I don't think there's a huge amount of sympathy for her. They seem like partners in crime, whereas in the books, I think there's a lot more sympathy for her. She doesn't seem to be as highly involved with all of his wrongdoings. She's just sort of there throughout. Or not quite like that. She still does have a big presence, but yeah, there's just a lot more sympathy for her, which I found was drawn out more in the TV show, so I did like that. And just unnecessary things between Valjean and Javert, and it was like he was suspicious already. He wasn't. He's not suspicious as soon as he sees him. Oh my good lord. And then I've quoted one of the lines of, "This fellow writes abominably." Oh my god, my fave. I think that was when the Thénardiers were writing to Fantine, and Thénardier just writing absolutely awful, and the like male cleric or whatever it was reading it to Fantine, which I thought was a nice little touch, like showing that all happening. And his judgment of Thénardier's writing was excellent. Speaking of them adding things in, what is going on with this lady visiting the Thénardiers? Yeah. What is on with this lady visiting the Thénardiers? And also, yeah, why is this timeline so messed up? Marius's dad doesn't die till he's way older. Like, so much older. His dad dying is the reason him and his granddad go separate ways. He doesn't understand that when he's like 6. It's like when he's 18 that it all happens. 18, 20 even. Like, how is a 6-year-old losing his father meant to like revolutionize his way of thinking? Because he's too young for that. Oh my god. And then there's just a lot of complaining about the timeline, to be honest. We lost a lot of Fantine stuff because the timeline was so rushed. And then just, that's not a very deep hole to bury all his treasure in. Yeah, like, you would think you would dig a bit deeper than like that to bury like your entire fortune, but yeah. And then, yeah, final thought. But he doesn't see his dad alive. What is going on? Oh, Jesus. That's like part of the injustice of it all as well, as he never gets to see his dad alive. So, episode 3. I'm having issues with the previously on already, like, before we've even got to what's going on in the actual episode. They just missed the bit that he, like, broke parole. / I think we missed that in earlier episodes as well. The fact that he broke parole, that just didn't seem to get mentioned. Did it? And oh my god, we were already at Valjean being at court. Like, that first episode was way too long, like rambly and waffly and like setting up everything. Like, and then we just rushed the first half of the book. More than that. Like, why did Valjean get so angry in court and they believed him so quickly? Like, did he show his brand even? Anyway. More crazy time jumps, and then Cosette is 2 years older, and yet she looks exactly the same. She's still played by the same girl. She's at the age where 2 years is going to make her look very different. So, I don't know, artistic choices. And what is with this whole public beating thing of Cosette? Like, why is Madame Thénardier literally like publicly beating her and like making a game out of it? That is horrible and so far away from her personality, and like, I do not understand. They were awful, but they didn't do, like, yeah, they beat her, but they didn't like make a game out of it in front of everyone. I don't know. And I was then incredibly upset that they didn't show Valjean's escape from the ship, because that would have been so cool. That was like one of the best bits. Oh, I want to see him dive off a ship. And yeah, this is a comment I had seen before I watched it, was that they kept implying stuff about Valjean and Cosette, which doesn't sit okay with me. And why do they feel the need to do that? Like, Thénardier's suggesting things already, and it's not okay. And yeah, I know Cosette trusts Valjean instinctively, but it does look creepy. Like, why do they need to do it like that? And also, what is that interaction between Cosette and the lead tenant? Also, she's the landlord, not the lead tenant. I'm very confused. And she is also such a snitch. And the late night walk was way too quick. He finds the monastery way too quickly, way too easily, and Valjean, oh my god, the whole point of it is that Javert thinks they've vanished into thin air. They don't leave any traces. He doesn't go banging on the door or suspecting. Oh my god. Yeah, I guess because they rushed a whole load of stuff earlier, they then didn't have this man that Valjean saved really in the Abbey, so they had to do something else. It was a bit weird at first, but I guess it sort of worked. And my last thought was like, does this mean they're not going to do the coffin thing to get him out then? Because that was also quite cool. Oh good lord, I'm actually a little bit scared of episode 4, because it's literally just a full page of block text. I didn't put any like spaces in it. I think I just went on one big rant. Oh god. Yeah, literally first line, I immediately see why people made out that Valjean and Cosette were in love. That Valjean was in love with Cosette. Yeah, and so now Marius finds out about his dad. And shouting in church. Nothing like some good old exposition. And yeah, I was very upset to find that they didn't leave in the coffin. It was really sad. And Rue Plumet is gorgeous, but also they don't move to Rue Plumet yet. Oh my god, continually messing up the story. They just missed out a whole several years where Cosette lives in a house, and also she got pretty way too quick. They've messed up the timeline again, and they're just messing up everything. I've just got in all caps. Something tells me they're going to slaughter the storyline again. And yeah, also please tell me that Gavroche was just visiting his parents and not living with them, because I love Gavroche's like home in the elephant in the book. And then I was very frustrated about Eponine knowing about the peephole in the wall, or like the little hole in the wall. And she was also too old, I think. Her and Cosette probably, I don't know. This was one of my biggest issues with the entire thing, I think, was why on earth did Valjean tell Cosette pretty much everything? Because that's literally what he spent his entire life trying to hide from her. Like, he's literally just undermined his entire character, ruined the ending pretty much by telling Cosette everything already. Most things, I'm just being quite nitpicky, and I mean, I might be sounding like, why are they doing this? But it's all sorts of like, in comparison, I enjoyed the show as a whole, but this is one of the things that I'm not really like okay with. Like, it so drastically changed. I mean, they didn't make it change anything, but the implications, like if they had let that affect things, are just massive. Okay, I think I might need to, I don't know if you can see, but I now basically have a section yay big that is just in all capitals. I just went on a bit of a rant, to be honest. Yeah, why do people keep implying things about Valjean and Cosette? Why is he watching her change? Why have I had to write so much of this in caps? Why has she done her hair, and why are the gang operating in the park? And why is it so busy? And why are they talking already? And this is the bit where it actually hit me that they were meant to be in a different house first. Why was Valjean dragging her? Why was he so mean to her? Why was Eponine at the whorehouse? Why is there so much sexualization? Why is he standing behind her like that? I swore in this next bit, like the director was off his rocker. It was just question after question after question. Like, why do they recognize each other? Where's all his mates? What the hell is Valjean doing? Yeah, this is another bit. I love how they didn't want to give Gavroche his own plot line, so he just kept popping up. And what about the other two Thénardiers? I think I meant the little boys when I was talking about this. And why is he so injured? Anyway, that was episode 4. Upset me a little bit. Well, not upset me. I think episode 4 was where it very strongly started to go downhill. Like, once Valjean got Cosette, until that point, it was quite good, but I think it just slowed downhill from there. Or quite rapid, really, saying my thoughts on episode 4. Episode 5, we're getting there. Like, why was Javert not focused on the revolution at all? Why was he so focused on Valjean? That's not at all what happens. And it's like, so when's Marius becoming homeless? Because, like, that's gonna happen in this, because they're clearly not sticking to anything in the book, even though they're meant to be saving the book from the musical, and yet they're somehow managing to ruin it more. Also, they properly broke out Thénardier. I mean, it sort of happens like that, but it really doesn't. What on earth was this meeting? Why is she passing out? If they mess up their wedding, I'm going to have a fit. So then they finally brought in the 2 other Thénardiers, so they actually have, surprise, Thénardiers actually have 5 kids. And they finally brought them in, but they didn't explain who they were. They just randomly had them in there for a scene. For no reason. It would make literally no sense to anyone who hadn't read the books. Why? Why have it? Just, like, if you're not going to do it properly, why are you doing it at all? One of my moments of all caps. Grantaire and Enjolras are in love, and you can't change my mind, and oh my god, if they mess up their death, And then Eponine clearly did something that I couldn't remember if she did in the books or not, because that's what I've written. Literally, how have some people not aged at all? Like, I know the timelines are messed up, but people still getting older. Like, the musical's literally a competition between Valjean and Javert to see who can get the most white powder in their hair the fastest. Like, it's like an aging contest. Something else I hadn't mentioned yet, but the Amis were a really small group. They cut loads of them, and they didn't even bother to just have random, like, passers-by in the pub. It was just a small group of people in the pub, and they missed out so many of them. They're like 8 short, and I think they had less than 8 people there, so that's like, they've cut more than half of them. And then Javert doesn't go into the barricades looking for Valjean. He's not so focused on him as all that. Like, he is focused on him, but he's also doing his job in the meantime. He goes into barricades because it's his job, not because he's looking for Valjean, because he's convinced that he's the ringleader. They're just fabricating things to give Javert, like, backstory and, like, motivations. All that you need is in here. You don't need to add things in. If you just did this properly, you wouldn't be needing to add anything. And just more crap between Valjean and Cosette. I could not deal. And I love how they get to the place where they're going to build the barricade, and there's just so much random furniture strewn in the streets. Like, every other street was basically clear. This one, suddenly, loads of furniture everywhere. Oh, how convenient for us to build our barricade. Jesus. And why were there so many barricades almost in a circle? They were really spread out in the books. Really spread out. And they couldn't hear from each other. They didn't know that half the others had fallen so quickly. And then I got very worried for a minute. They didn't completely mess it up, but they half messed up Grantaire, his part in the barricade. And so I panicked for a bit here. And why did they feel the need to do that with that old vicar guy? I swear he's meant to be, like, important to Marius, and that's not what happens to him. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have such a happy ending. I mean, that's not exactly a happy ending, but for Les Mis, that's a happy ending. I'm pretty sure something a lot more miserable happened to him. Valjean was not supposed to know so much about what was going on, and why was he so mean to everyone, specifically Gavroche? Anyway, final episode. I've been talking for so long, like, this is gonna be an absolute nightmare to edit. Before I even got onto it, I could tell that they were messing up, because the thumbnail of the 6th episode was of Cosette fighting a guard. What? Why? How? I've just got to thank God, because I thought they were going to disrespect Grantaire's death. Also momentary confusion, because I swear Marius was the one who called for all the married people to go, but he joined in later, so it was fine. Cosette ran into the street for literally no reason. I don't understand. And I swear they killed Javert earlier than this, so more timeline getting messed up. And also Marius got knocked out earlier. And why does Marius see Valjean, and did he recognize him? I'm so confused. And one thing I noticed in the books, and I've noticed again now, it's so lovely and convenient that Marius knows Gavroche is Eponine's sister, has Eponine die in his arms, and then conveniently just doesn't tell Gavroche that his sister is dead over there. It's like, what? Really? I've written, in all caps, if there was one bit to do in French, why not Grantair's final lines of like, Vive la Revolution, or whatever it is that he says. Why do they need to say it in English? Like, if there was one bit to do in French, his final words, like, I know it does rain at that point in the books, because then the sewers flood and everything, but in my head, all I was thinking was, as it was raining on like Eponine and Gavroche and everything, I was like, lol, he accidentally gave a little nod to the musical of rain will make the flowers grow, ha ha ha. I don't know what else to say. Someone says, I don't think so, and apparently I found it funny, and I can't remember who said it now. If you know what I mean when I was thinking that, let me know, because I have already forgotten, and I really don't want to have to go through and rewatch it all to figure out what I was thinking and why, because it was painful by this point. Like, why was Valjean so desperate to have Javert there the whole time? Oh, maybe it was when he was talking to Javert in the carriage at some point. And also, why does Javert say he let him go? Like, if he hadn't been raving about him the whole time, the rest of the Paris police would not have cared a bit about Valjean. At all. And why is Thénardier there is all in caps, so I assume he popped up at some point that he wasn't meant to be there as well. And then all the stars were out when Javert was on the bridge, so another nod to the musical, and I swear they didn't have a honeymoon. I'm very confused by that, or if they did, it was a lot quicker. And why was Cosette there? Why did she guess, like, everything? And also, Thénardier, I mean, I know it's said in the book as like a little post note that Thénardier goes off to sell slaves, but Marius doesn't know that when he gives them the money. Surely Marius has more morals than, oh, this person says they're gonna go sell slaves, I'm gonna give them money anyway. Like, why does Thénardier tell him and then he still gives him the money? Like, there are other ways to let us know that Thénardier then goes off to become a slave trader that make more logical sense. Why and how does Cosette know to look in Digne? How? He literally never speaks about the bishop, ever. Least of all to Cosette. How does she know to look there? And also, why does he look like Sean Bean when he's like shaved with a hat? Just something I noticed. And he doesn't look like, this is one of the issues with them not aging up enough. He doesn't look like he's on his deathbed. And he just collapses in a garden as well, which is so much nicer than the horrid old house he's meant to be in. I mean, I think the TV show was definitely a bit more miserable than the musical, but still wasn't as miserable as the books. And then it's like, why is he like, oh, there were so many things I needed to tell you. Oh, never mind. He doesn't even be like, read this letter when I'm gone or whatever, I don't think. And then, I love how it just ended on the two Thénardier boys, except you never get told who they are or any of their backstory, so it makes literally no sense. Is it meant to be some sort of like symbolic, oh look, the cycle's happening again, everyone's still miserable and poor, but like, are they meant to be symbolic in some way? But how? Because no one knows who they are unless you've read the book. The ending made literally no sense. I've just written then other thoughts. Eponine never really seemed to acknowledge that she knew Cosette or recognised her, and she does in the books and the musical. And Cosette recognises her in the show, even though she doesn't and Cosette recognises her in the TV show, and yet in the musical doesn't, and in the books doesn't, and yet, so they just completely reversed that? I don't know. So that's my run through of all of the episodes. As you can see, the first 3 episodes I got on quite well with. I was just pointing out a lot of differences, but then I started to actually have issues with the episodes as they went on, like 4 to 6 I was actually starting to have issues with. And like I said, it was enjoyable to watch, and if I hadn't read the books, I think I still would have enjoyed it. I would have been able to figure out what was going on, it would have made sense, it would have been enjoyable, but I think just knowing what happens in the book, and just the comment from the director just before the TV show aired about how he was going to save Les Mis from that awful musical sort of rubbed me up the wrong way. So when I'm having issues with it, it's less easily forgiven. So overall, very enjoyable if you've read the book or you're incredibly attached to the musical and know it like the back of your hand. Just don't go into it holding on to either of those things too dearly. I tend to find in general with adaptations, like film adaptations and TV show adaptations of books that I've read, if it's been a long time since I've read the original source material, that I enjoy it more. And I think that would have been the case here. No, overall, a good TV show, very well filmed, some lovely acting, just I have issues with the script and some of the choices made than that. And that is all. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it actually made some sort of sense. As I'm filming this, I'm not entirely sure that it does. I'm not sure I entirely understood everything I was saying, but hopefully I've managed to turn it into something vaguely sensey. If you've seen the TV show, I would love to know your thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed it and want to see more stuff like this, then please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Till then, bye!